Good morning, everybody. I said come and re-record or try to re-record the video on teens anger. So this is it. So I'm just going to recap on what I said last week about teens and anger. You've got to understand that the brain works differently in teens. Okay, the brain hasn't fully developed. They're thinking on a completely different part of the brain than an adult would, and this takes time to develop. You will be about 26 before the brain actually catches up with all those hormones and all those physical changes that we go through during our teenage years. So to understand, to understand this and to take this on board is very important when it comes to teens. So, I'm not saying, this lets them off the hook because of, any bad behaviour. It doesn't. They still very much need structure. They need the house rules. They need discipline. They need consequences. But it also may allow you to understand where they're coming from and why they're not thinking, as an adult would. A lot of the times when we see them and they're so physically big, and they are, for all intents and purposes, adults. They look like adults. They're really not. Their brain isn't capable of thinking in the same way as we do. Now, I mention this because I really feel that if you understand it, it helps. It helps you to understand where they're coming from. The other thing I would say about anger is the anger management. You need to model anger management and good stress reduction techniques. You need to be modelling this for them in order for them to see it and for them to learn how to do it. What you do at home is going to be reflected in them and how they behave. So if you're having difficulties with anger, if you're having difficulties with your stress, I would very much, recommend that you take it on board and go, okay, I have a problem here. It's not a big problem, but I need help with it, and go and get help. Now, there are courses out there. There are, people like myself who can help you. A very short course will probably do the trick. But it's, particularly with stress, it's a lifestyle change. And you remember, you're modelling very healthy and good boundaries for them, and that's what they need to see. They need to see that it's okay to admit we have faults. It's okay that we can say, hands up, I'm not doing this well, I need help, or, they need to see all this. This is very healthy for them to see, and for them to see that you're a human being, and you can take all this on board and you can go and get help and you can go and ask for help, and it's okay for them to ask for help. Now, in terms of working out why they're angry, I would always say that, you need to become a little bit of a private investigator with any of their emotions. And I'm going to talk about negativity in the next video. But if you look at, how they are, why are they angry? Well, they mightn't be able to tell you why they're angry. So you may need to go out and investigate. So you need to talk to their friends' parents, the school. You need to talk to the year head, maybe the class teacher. If there's a particular teacher that they get on really well with, or they seem to like, maybe that person could also be spoken to. The parent liaison officer, the school counsellor. Anybody you think, if they're in a group or an activity that they really like. Maybe they've spoken to somebody there, and you may be able to find out from them what's going on. Is there something going on? Because it may not be something to do with them. It may be something to do with a friend, or something that's happened in school or at the club or whatever they're involved in. So a little bit of private investigation work may be needed on your part. The thing about anger is, you've got to remember you're the adult. So we get into arguments with our kids. That's normal. Tempers, particularly with teens, tempers can flare on both sides. Be the adult. Realise what's going on. Back off. and give them the space they need to calm down. You go and calm down as well. And then later on that night or the next day, that's the time when everybody's calm for people to sit down and talk about what's happened. Don't let it go. Always talk about what's happened. Be big enough to apologise. Losing your temper with them isn't good. Okay, you've lost the battle once you lose your temper. Okay, once you start to get angry, you're losing the battle here. Okay, you are in the losing position because you are the adult. So everybody needs to calm down. Everybody needs to back off. Everybody needs to then, come back when everybody's calm, and then we sit down and we talk it through like adults. The warning signs. Sometimes with anger, there are warning signs that it's going to happen. So, I've listed out a few in the blog. Have a look at it. If they're experiencing something, this again goes back to being the private investigator. Something may be triggering their anger. So it may be a frustration rather than an anger, but they may explode into an anger. So look at what's going on, what's happening before, to see if there's a headache, if there's some sort of, stomach ache, or is there some other trigger that's going on, that's going to, if you can find out what it is, you'll be able to talk to them about it and go, did you realise that, you seem to get a headache and then you get angry afterwards. You're going to this particular sporting event and then you get very angry afterwards. Think about what's going on beforehand, just beforehand. Sit down and think about it. Discuss it with your partner, see have they spotted any signs, warning signs. And then go and sit down and talk to the teen. What you're trying to do with them is highlight that something may be triggering them, highlight that, that there is something going on, and point it out to them. Now, you're not doing it in a blame kind of way. All you're doing is simply saying, do you want to talk about it? Do you want this? We notice that this is happening. Now, you may not get a response. You may get the grunt. You may get, I don't want to talk about it. And they may go off. But you've planted the seed. Okay? You've planted the thought in their brain. And usually what happens then is it'll ripple out and they will think about it. And they'll probably come back to you. Particularly if you've kept the lines of communication open. That is so important with teens. Always, always keep that line of communication going. No matter what is happening. It's so important. They need to know, even though you may only get that grunt, even though you may get silence. They want to know you are listening. You are there for them. That's all they want. They want that reassurance and love. And as I've said in the blog, these blogs all build one on top of the other. All these videos are all interlinked. So, think about it. The next thing I would just say to you is, ignore the passive aggressive behaviour. Now, what I mean by that is, if they cross the line, the consequences, as I said, you have your house rules, you have your discipline, you have your consequences, you've got them involved in all that, and that was last week. We talked about that last week. So as I said, these blogs build. But passive aggressive can be a bit of, help with the housework, help with babysitting and something like that. Okay, they're going to moan. They're going to nag. They're going to moan. They're going to go, oh, I'm so bored. Oh, I don't want to do this. This is ridiculous. I don't want to do. Oh, they almost have the chains and they're rattling it. Completely normal behaviour. This is completely normal behaviour. They are going to moan about everything. Any sort of help they have to give. And you just have to let that go. Pick your battles is what I would say to you. Pick your battles, so that they are that they are the ones that you're going to help win the war, if they like. Although it isn't really a war, but I think you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. Now, in saying all that, you let go of that moaning and that groaning and that passive aggressive behaviour, but don't ever let go of bad behaviour. as I said last week, we keep an eye on the house rules. We get them involved in making the house rules, and we get them involved in the consequences. So it's very clear that there are consequences. There are consequences. Look in and see if it's depression, and you know your child best. So I would suggest that you think that this may be depression, go immediately and see your GP. The quicker you intervene, the quicker, most likely the quicker the recovery time is. Also consider any other mental health illnesses, as we know that a lot of mental health illnesses can start. They are rare, but they do occur, and they do start in teen years. Always go and see your GP. And don't forget, you can self-refer to psychiatrists and psychologists as well. Now, the last couple of points are all really what they really need from you. Never give up on them. No matter how bad it gets, at the end of the day, they want you to know, they want to know you love them and that you are there for them, no matter how bad it gets. And for most teens, it really doesn't get that bad. It really isn't bad. What we see in the media, what we see, reported in the papers is all, it'll always be, extremes. They'll always try and hype it up and make it as worse than it is. So for most teens, they go through the teen years, and it really isn't that bad. It isn't smooth sailing, because they are, as I said, their brain isn't functioning as an adult brain yet, and they're rejecting themselves. They're rejecting there in order to become the adult. They're rejecting the child in order to become the adult they need to be. And the last thing I would say to you is keep your sense of humour. In years to come, yes, you will be able to tell the stories to their children, and in years to come, you'll be able to sit down and laugh about it. And you will, so the best thing you can do is have a good laugh with your friends. Not laugh at them. Don't laugh at them, but, you can laugh about it, and you can laugh about it with your partner, or, as long as whoever you're laughing at it with doesn't get onto them and say something to them, but, can be discreet. And then, as I said, in time, you will be able to laugh. You will be able to laugh with them, So I'll leave it at that for this video on anger and teens. And do check out the blog. It's at www.DeborahByrnePsychologyServices.com. And I will be talking about the negative mindset and dealing with negativity in teens shortly. So I'll say goodbye. Thank you for listening.